years ago. I remember first hearing about it when I was in Canada. I had your Canadian broadcast channel on, and after I was listening to Mozart for a minute, an alert came on. And one of these very articulate Canadians from somewhere out west, probably Vancouver, said, "Well, we now see there's a bird flu." Bird flu? So I had to listen to this shit. They said, yes, they had birds and 4 Vietnamese people died. But here's how it's going to spread. The birds are going to be flying around on their migration patterns. They're going to poop. It's going to go into the chicken coop. Remember they told us this? And you're going to eat the chicken and you're going to be like the dead Vietnamese people. And they created a vaccine that didn't work. And the companies, listen closely, you may remember, this is only a few years ago. The companies literally said, this doesn't work. But they riled you all up so much with the word pandemic. And you notice the pharmaceutical companies, who are the major sponsors of television, literally had pictures from the early 20th century with your dying uncles and aunts and grandparents on the bed, and the nurses in there with masks on, and they kept showing that. And so the Canadian public and the American public and the European public, they only go to places and show this who make money, by the way. They go to Africa and show this, no way. They go down to South America, forget it, they don't do it. But literally what they did is, they said, this isn't going to work, you got riled up, called Winnipeg, and they made worldwide $17 billion profit. When they tell you this doesn't work, you all demand it. You better get it. We're going to die. We're going to have a pandemic. We're going to be like our aunts laying in bed. Remember the way nurses used to dress? They had, you know what pictures I mean? You can hardly see them. What is that? I don't know. It's a bird flu. So boy, did they do well in that one. And really morally sound people like Dick Cheney took that into account, I'm sure. So now they always make it an easy name. Remember that. They know we're not that well educated. Most of us read at the 5th grade level. So they always call it like swine flu. Now this one they really had well put together. They not only showed you where it came from, they showed you the cute little Anglo-Saxon looking little Mexican boy. Didn't look like a Mexican, by the way, looked like your child. You ever notice that? Rosy cheek, bright blue eyes, and here's little Pedro. And Pedro is literally the first human that got swine flu, pig flu, P-I-G. You can spell it 3 words, 3 letters. And they showed him. And we're talking to people, because we had 2 guests at that point from Mexico City, and they did such a major propaganda program in Mexico City. They were standing on street corners telling people, this is the epicenter of a worldwide pandemic. And so they put masks on all the people, and then they photographed that and sent it to all the world. So this is how they started this. Now they've elevated it for the more educated. They scared everyone with the pig and the swine stuff. Now the higher educated people, they want to get you too. So now it's H1N1. Aren't I proud? I can remember those 4 things. H1N1. First 2 weeks you had a hard time with it. It was PZN, no? No, it's H1N1. See that? It paid off. I went to 4 years of college. So I can go out and take drugs. Bottom line is, this is going to make a lot more than $17 billion. And it's guerrilla marketing. They do it all the time. You see it every night when you're sitting down eating your potato chips, organic of course, and with your clicker over there. They always do a good job on that one. They always say, well, you know, do you have restless leg syndrome? Well, shit, my leg doesn't feel good. How about you been sitting on your fat ass for 4 hours? No, it's restless leg syndrome. Honey, we better go to the doctor tomorrow. Make a time for me. And the doctor, of course, who was at home eating potato chips and ice cream, he said, oh yes, you look like you have restless leg syndrome. It's guerrilla marketing. Guerrilla marketing. And, you know, this impotency thing, this is like an amazing thing. I had a guy come over, and he was in our health educator program a few years ago. He's an English guy. And when we were putting, he was watching American television on and off, and he said, I can't believe how risque you Americans are. We thought we were wild. He said, every other commercial at night, they're talking about giving somebody a hard-on. And then he couldn't believe it. He ran in one day, he was overwhelmed. He said, I heard last night they said if you have a hard-on for 4 hours, you've got to go to a doctor. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's the last place I'd go. Unbelievable. So they get you coming and going. Now it's the pig flu. Oh, excuse me, this is an educated group. H1N1. And magically, they made a vaccine in 5 months. Now, let's talk about vaccines. The real way they make vaccines, that most of them are dangerous, by the way, are over a 5-year period. And then it's placed in the marketplace for about another 5 years before we start to see the effectivity of it, how effective it is. But what we did know last week, 2 weeks ago, is that they gave it to school-age children, 11 of them, and they died within 48 hours. Now, did you hear that? You didn't hear that supplements were chemicals either, did you? And you didn't know that 60% of the pharmaceutical drugs on the market worldwide, one of the side effects is death. There's not a word I'm telling you tonight that I can't back, by the way. 60% of the pharmaceutical drugs on the market today, one of the potential side effects is death, but we keep taking it. And we take how much? Twice as much as anyone else in the world. Because we're really well-trained sheep. We're better sheep than anyone else. I'm sure the French, who they get to take drugs, they fight it at first. So. Probably go on strike for a while. And they finally take it to them. What the hell? I'm tired of walking. I can't do it. The sign. Few more questions. Yes?
Suggestions for chronic migraines.
Most migraine headaches come out of the intestinal tract, and I conservatively say solidly it's 60%. And so it's the gastrointestinal tract that causes that. Number 2 culprit, probably 15%, would be allergic reactions to something you're taking or an environment you're living in. Something you're eating or an environment you're living in. Eating out of that 15% is probably 12%. Environment, maybe 3%. Head injuries, what this young man talked about. Do you suffer any migraines? You're lucky, but this is another thing. And you may say, well, I've never hit my head. Well, one of the hobbies I had as a kid is falling down this stairway into the basement, my parents said. And thank God I don't have headaches. I'm not very bright, but I don't have headaches. And bottom line is, you could have had an injury that you didn't know. Your little boy, and it could have been something that you didn't even think was bad, and boom. Like the poor girl, the actress who died here in East, what did she do? She hit and didn't even look like she hit her head. So that could be it. But it's mostly in the gut. And it's not just taking probiotics. I mean, you need to go to a really well-experienced colonic therapist. You need to get into, do you have money or not?
Yep.
If you have money, basically you get into the Sigen product out of Japan. S-E-I-G-E-N. Sigen is tremendous. It's a state-of-the-art of probiotic products. That one cleans you up, really gets that going. And then see how that all affects you. And the second phase, if not, it's probably an allergic reaction to something you're eating or living. Pretty simple stuff most of the time. Yes, you had a question?